Jeremy, Mynoon1999, you did a brilliant video response, and I was perhaps less subtle than usual in putting forward the idea of using European forces as a European Africa Corps. But Misrata is under heavy bombardment, and perhaps there isn't time to use your idea of Egyptian special forces and armour and from Tunisia. But can we come to some sort of agreement here that perhaps the best route would be a compromise between the two? It's easy for us to play armchair generals, but the people who are in the know the best way to do it, I suppose. But perhaps they're having more problems in the political sphere in Berlin between the Americans and Germans than between the British and French, who are leading this force and leading the military action in both for Europe and for NATO. But what this video is going to concentrate on is not just Libya as a African and European problem, but also Ivory Coast, Zimbabwe and South Africa, and a host of other countries as well, including the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is neither democratic or formerly known as Zaire, where since the former dictator Mobutu was removed by Laurent Kabila, and then Laurent Kabila was removed by his own son, over 6 million people have died. It's the biggest war that's been forgotten by the world since World War II, perhaps. Perhaps even more people have died, and more people have died than in Rwanda. The world also was not interested, and the African Union, since it is based around Nigeria chiefly as its core, has not been very interested in the Congo, except for trying to take away, as Mugabe has of Zimbabwe, the mineral wealth of Congo and back in different sides, mostly from Rwandan militia. Now in Misrata there may not be time for us to use Arab forces, but I believe that there must be perhaps a face-saving mission by the EU and a EU Africa Corps, which we can develop later as a concept in this video, to save the people of Misrata by land, sea and air, and use our heavy armour and our Royal Marines and the French Foreign Legion and also air power, NATO's air power, to impose a security zone over Misrata to make a safe haven, as we did for the people successfully in Kosovo. Otherwise we will see what we saw in Bosnia, where the international community's power is not respected by the dictator on the ground, that is Gaddafi in this case. But the reason why I believe that the Egyptians and Tunisians, although your idea is a brilliant idea of using them, won't be interested, is because the revolution in Egypt is still unfinished business. The army is still in control. They're still keeping people away from Tahrir Square, Freedom Square, ironically called, and preventing people from demonstrating. The revolution in Syria is not yet fully achieved. The Ba'athist regime there is still very strong. Also, the main goal of this revolution in the Middle East should be the removal of the Saudi and Bin Laden crime families, and for that we'll need a European Africa Corps and a European Arabian Corps. What I'm talking about here is the setting up of military districts over these areas of the Middle East, North Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa and East Africa as part of a pattern work of unions that have affiliation with the United States and the EU as their security guarantors, and also a common market there with tariffs to protect the Europeans from dumping. That is basically cheap goods being dumped on us by Africa or the Middle East or other markets. But how would this Africa Corps work? Well, we only need to look at the South African experience in Africa to see how to deploy mobile light forces as well as heavy armour, and our experience in Iraq. Now, as we've seen, Libya's main road has been its main battlefield. The Arabs have a healthy respect for the desert and are quite frightened of the desert as a force of nature, both for superstitious reasons and also for practical reasons, that people die in the desert of heat, exhaustion and lack of water. But in the West, the Western way of war has been reliant on logistics, and logistics meant that we could enter the desert, we could become masters of the desert warfare, as we were in Iraq twice. Now, and that twice was a V for victory as well. What we need to do is to have faith in ourselves as a Western culture and a Western civilization. Europe being now the leader of that civilization as America gracefully retires from the preeminent role, and I believe, as my friend Nick Pieman, check out his channel, said that many Americans are more interested in their domestic affairs and getting their economy right. But a Euro Afrika Corps would solve many of the problems that the French would probably be leaders in this, because of their involvement in Africa, and especially their involvement in Ivory Coast, where we've seen the French Foreign Legion in action quite effectively, and they have brought Mbagbo to justice and put in their man instead. But both of the guys are basically like gang leaders of the wire. The only difference is that they've got tanks as well as men with thugs with machine guns. But Ouattara did win the election, and as you said in your video. But what are we to do about countries like Zimbabwe and South Africa? The genocide in South Africa of over nearly 1 million people have left South Africa. Millions of people have left South Africa. Millions of people may have died in South Africa. The exact number is not fully known, but it may be around 1 million white people who have died in South Africa. Nothing is being done. It's not being talked about. When Tony Blair was given the question of whether we would intervene in Zimbabwe, when a similar genocide was taking place against white farmers, he was said, we simply don't have the military means to do it. Why? Because we did not have sufficient carrier forces or amphibious forces or a friendly base in East Africa. What we need to do is to impose bases like the Americans have done throughout the world on rogue states. The Saudis have not been in open war with the United States. They've used terrorists. But if the Saudis ever did become in open war with the United States, they not using the Bin Ladens as their proxy, then the United States has bases in Saudi Arabia where they could impose on the Saudis any terms that they saw fit, because they have that means of power. Now, I'm not saying that the EU should act like the United States. The United States has been ruthless in its use of power, and also quite to its own detriment, especially involving Al-Qaeda, the backing of Al-Qaeda, the backing of the Saudi and Bin Laden crime families early on when they were fighting the Soviets, and later on this led to 9/11. We do not want to follow their path, but we must include hard power as well as soft power in such a European Africa Corps. And Africa needs help. It is the white man's graveyard, but it needs help, and especially the Boers of South Africa need help to get in their independence. Thank you for listening.